What's going on, everybody? This is an exciting one, starting a brand new series with my man Joel here. Now, Joel, we met not too long ago, and he does a channel and focuses a lot on sobriety and helping men with that. And he's done some absolutely amazing podcasts. If you haven't seen it already, go ahead and check him out on YouTube, Sobriety University. Absolutely fantastic stuff over there. But Joel, go ahead and introduce yourself before I introduce what this whole series is really going to be about.
Yeah, guys, Hud said it. My name is Joel. I'm out here in the Midwest in Madison, Wisconsin. My YouTube channel is Sobriety University. And just like you said, I've been on the addiction path for quite some time now. And that's how Huds and I met. We met through a live stream with our friend Jaron, and we talked about kind of addiction and stuff and how that plays into dating a little bit. And so, yeah, definitely would looking forward to this and looking forward to connecting with all of Hud's audience.
Awesome. So, what is this whole Men of Now thing? We decided to call it Men of Now because it is dealing with today's current dating landscape. I know that we had the pandemic and lockdowns and a rapidly evolving social climate where everything is moving to phones and online dating instead of the normal approaches that we used to have back in the day of just walking up to a girl and saying, "Hello, who are you? My name is Alex," and then go from there. So it's completely different. And we figured what better time than to come together and start to have these discussions and at least, for me, because I'm a dating coach, give my knowledge, have Joel share his knowledge, also bring on guests, which we have scheduled out in the future, so that we can share as much knowledge as possible so that you can be equipped to be successful in today's dating landscape. And this was an absolutely fantastic idea. It was Joel's idea. And I was like, you know what, man, I am all for it. So we might as well get started with that. Joel, what has been your experience with dating and like your progression growing up?
Yeah, great question, man, and a great intro to the show. I think I'm like a lot of guys where I started. I've always wanted girlfriends. I've always desired women as much men do because we have testosterone. And I always found myself in either the friend zone. I never knew how to properly approach. I would say seduce a woman, go on dates. I could never do any of that. I was kind of in the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna just a magical girl is gonna come through my door one day, and it's all just gonna be perfect, and I'm gonna be thank you God for this this moment. And as probably most of you know, that doesn't happen. You got to go out there, you got to work for it, and you got to put an effort and action. And so, yeah, it's I guess basically I simped pretty hard, and I finally had my wake up of, okay, I'm doing a lot of these things and it's not leading to the results of dating I want. I really have to make some really big internal and external changes. That's when I started finding channels on YouTube, like Entrepreneurs in Cars. That was a big one. Trip Advice, who he'll be on our channel as well coming up and on this show to talk with us about dating and stuff. The Single Guy, there's a ton of them out there, and I just kind of immersed myself in learning as much as I could about how to date, how to be attractive, how to kind of undo some of those conditionings that I had in the past. I got a great mentor as well. Shout out to Nick if you're watching. He'll be on the channel at some time too. And I just love learning about this. I love talking about it, and it's been quite the progression. I've been dating about a year now. I had a girlfriend in high school, and it was very like I chased her for like 3 years, and I finally got her because I had some status through sports. However, she never was really into me, right? She could never really like be sexually open with me because she never really liked me in the first place, right? So that was a big mistake I made. I made the mistake of going after girls that weren't really into me, but that liked my lifestyle, for example. And then, yeah, college went on. I didn't have much success in college, which was very frustrating, very disappointing. I just had too much anxiety, too much addiction issues, like I said. And I got clean in 2016 and really kind of obviously stayed away from dating because I had so much internal stuff I had to work on. But it got to a point where I was like probably 4 years sober, and I was like, man, I really want to start dating. Like I thought by now the universe would have put someone in my life, kind of that one-itis mindset, right? That I put in the work, right? Where's the girl? And of course, I realized like I got to go learn how to date and stuff. And so I had little bits where I would go out and do approaches and stuff, and it never really worked. I tried dating apps. Something we'll probably touch on at some point is the importance of like, you got to have really good photos, and really just understanding too, like what climate and environment, location you're in. Cause I don't do well with dating apps, for example, where I'm in a very liberal progressive town. That's where very white. And so Asians are not highly sought after. And it's like a red pill truth I've had to accept. Like, I'm just not going to do well here. So I'm planning right now a move to Poland, where I'm going to get to do some dating, do some cold approach and stuff, and ideally have a better shot at getting consistent dates with the women I'm looking to date. And so last year, that's when I really started to dive into this stuff. I got a dating coach, Trip Advice. He really helped me start to break out of the shell, start to do approaches, record the approaches, which was quite difficult, I'm not going to lie. And then we would listen back to them, and he would give me like little tips. And what I realized quickly was like, I'm doing a good job. Like, I'm not as awkward or weird as I thought I was. And that really gave me confidence to just keep going, pursuing this path. And over this last year, yeah, I've gone on quite a many dates, and have just learned a crap ton about women, about myself. And I'm just so pumped to keep talking about this and keep the journey going. So how about yourself, Hudson?
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I it's very similar. Wasn't so much like chasing a high school girlfriend for too long, but it was chasing a girlfriend. I'll be completely honest. Way back in high school, I would look forward to a Friday night where I would just be able to come home and play video games with friends until all hours of the evening instead of going out and socializing. Now, part of that too is because I went to an all guys school. So I wasn't interacting with women at all for most of my day. The only times I would see girls is at one of the sporting events, and it would either be them coming to one of ours, or I remember there's a time with lacrosse, they had us go to observe one of the girls' games, which was a really weird thing now that I think about it, that the old coach was like, we're going to go to the other school and watch all the girls play lacrosse to look at their fundamentals.
Oh.
But regardless, I kind of grew up that way, and it got to a point where I was just like, I don't want to be a loser anymore. Like, why do some of these guys have girlfriends? Why do some of these guys, why are they successful, and why am I not? And that's when things really started to change for me. And it wasn't really until 17 or so that things started to change. And I know going into college, I really just got all about it. And I wanted to push myself as far as possible. And I actually was able to become the social chair of my fraternity. So I was the one in charge of throwing all the parties, one that was communicating with all the sororities. And I really put myself out of my comfort zone. And it was through all of that that things really did start to click and change. And there was a girl I dated in college that after we broke up, I ended up looking for answers on the internet. And that's when I initially came across that red pill Reddit, where a lot of things started to make sense. It was a lot of the intersexual dynamic stuff that Rollo had talked about, or still does talk about. And it just, pistons started firing in my head that I wasn't aware of. Now, granted, everything started working just fine. And I didn't really lean on that information. I didn't care about it too much. And so everything was going fine. And then as years progressed, I got into another relationship that was pretty detrimental to me. It was very unhealthy on both ends. And once that ended, I was lost. I was absolutely lost. And that's what actually brought me back into some of this like red pill, PUA, men's self-help, all that type of stuff. And through embracing that and kind of like studying it and thinking about it, kind of led me to really blossom. And in that blossoming, and we could even talk about this in and of itself at some point, is going out solo. So I had friends that didn't want to go out and meet girls, or if they were like, heck yeah, let's go do this, they didn't really talk to anybody when we were out. They were expecting me to do everything. So I ended up going out on my own and just trying to approach people, trying to meet people. And it ended up really honing my social skills. And then, you got that next wave where we had the lockdowns. And then I started getting connected with people online. And I realized that I had a genuine knack for helping people understand how to make it work. not just as you were mentioning with the dating apps when it comes to photos, how to communicate with people. Sorry to say it, but it's not just your area. Across the board, Asian men are the least liked on dating apps. So it is.
Yeah.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's reality.
Hmm.
Being able to go through that and help people to really be successful. Then I just like dove headfirst into this whole thing, and I mean, man, I have not had an issue with dating in 4 to 5 years at all. Like
Sweet.
I could walk outside and pick somebody. If there was a gun to my head and I had to go pick somebody up in the next 30 minutes, done. Like it's that simple. So that's what I think is really cool is being able to talk about different experiences and relay them to everybody because I didn't grow up as a Chad. I still don't even think I'm a Chad. I mean, you look fantastic. I would say you're an Asian Chad.
They call us
But,
Changs.
yeah, Changs or whatever the heck
Changs,
you're
dude.
saying on the. Did you see that on the news thing?
No.
Whatever it was, like the FBI watch list. Like essentially, Chang is the equivalent to Chad, and then if you
No.
use the word Chang, you'll be put on the watch list. Dude, it was the most ridiculous
Oh, wow.
article I've ever read.
I just
But
said that as a joke, but apparently it's
I know it's
it's out
real.
there.
That's why it's so absurd. But that's what I think is so fantastic. Like you and I both came from very weak backgrounds.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that any other guy out there, just because they may be coming from a weaker background, so did we.
Yeah,
Anybody can be successful
definitely.
in dating. And so
For
that's what
sure.
the whole point of this whole thing is.
Absolutely. Like I always say that too. Like I'll meet guys that are new in it and they're great looking. And like I met some guys the other night at the gym. Like, guys, if you just hone your skills, like you're you're gonna be out there doing fantastic. Because there's just a few little tweaks, right? Some mindset shifts, etc. And then finding the area where you do best in and you can excel. And I really like odds that you're how experienced you are. I think this is why we wanted to connect and do this as well, is because I'm still newer into this. So I still have a lot of questions. I'm still kind of awakening to this whole process. And so it's really good for me to have someone like Huds that's experienced this and been through it. It's we'll have a session on this as well about the importance of like finding a coach or a mentor because I think that's imperative. Like just to be able to ask some of the questions that like you were saying, Huds, we've never been able to ask growing up. If we would ask our parents that, they'd look at us like we were smoking drugs or something. Um, or if we asked, yeah, they just didn't know. So
Or
yeah,
you don't have a big brother or somebody who can tell you these things.
right, yep, for sure, for sure. Cool.
So do you have any initial questions you want to like start? Because I could start
Oh
wherever.
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So tonight's session, I'm going to be asking HUD some questions that are pretty common for beginners. And I definitely asked like my coach, my mentor, many times, like the answers to these questions. And I think it just can help kind of clear the air, clear the confusion that a lot of guys start off with when they're first starting out. I'll just give a little um, preface to like, so I've been doing it for the last year, like I said, and I've done over a few hundred approaches at this point. So the way we're looking at it, that's like my apprenticeship, right? Like I got through that first grind, right? The first year was pretty tough. The first 100 was pretty tough. The first 200 was even tougher because then now my ego was invested, saying that, dude, you did 100, you should be killing it right now. What's happening? Some of those real deep issues started to come up, and 300's been kind of just. I feel way more comfortable. Like I can do it, like you said. I can just go out if someone held a gun to my head. I can go to the grocery store and do 5 approaches. Like that's not a challenge anymore. Now it's just kind of honing some of the deeper skills. So yeah, diving right in. The first question that I have for HUDs is, what are the most important things? And this is a big question when it comes to seduction.
The most important things when it comes to seduction, um, definitely it's flow. And now I know that's like a very abstract to like say, but you notice like a lot of guys they tend to think of it very analytically. Like, what are the things that I need to say in what order to get this woman interested in me? And that's not really what it's about. Like if you notice growing up, there's certain guys that are very aloof and that tend to do very well with the ladies. Well, why is that? And you need to understand what that flow and that symbiotic relationship between male and female energy looks like.
Mm.
So, um, apologize. The you said suave. Is that the term you're using, or what? What was the question exactly?
Oh, what are the most important things with seduction?
With seduction, not suave. Seduction. It
Suave works
definitely.
too, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
Because you need to have a certain flow with everything. Um,
Mm.
with seduction as well. I mean, obviously, very basics. Obviously, you need to make sure that you look fine, whether it's just clean hairline, dressing well. Because if you're not attractive, no one's going to be attracted to you. I mean, those are basics. I mean, I guess maybe I do need to go down to basics instead of I'm kind of talking higher level second there. But obviously, you need to look presentable. You need to speak presentable. And part of that comes too, like as you were saying, doing a lot of different approaches and go through 100, then you go through 200. Well, the more approaches you do, the more desensitized you become to attractive women. I don't know about
Mm.
you,
Yeah.
but for most of my life, when I went to go talk to an attractive girl, the butterflies in my stomach were out of control.
Yeah.
And so if you're in that state, the nervousness comes out through your voice. And
Mm.
so you can't seduce if you're nervously speaking to somebody. It just doesn't work that way. You think about all the
Mm.
old James Bond movies
Yeah.
or any other time that they represent a very suave guy in
Yeah.
seduction is he's speaking very calmly, confidently, and it you want to ride that with them. It's like, there's I can't think of an exact example right now, but if somebody is nervously saying to you, well, like let's go on a date versus you're cute, sweetheart. You want to go grab a coffee? There's like a lot of difference
Sure. Oh,
in
you weren't asking me. See, I got seduced right there, guys. Look at that. Talk about suave. For
So I
sure.
think that's a lot of
Absolutely.
the initial stuff is like, and even though it's like awkward, you have to think like it doesn't matter when you get blown out. And we have to understand that the very best guys in the world, or the best reported when it comes to like pickup or going out and cold approaching women, only have like a 1 out of 10 success rate. So 90% of the
Yeah.
time they're failing. 9 out of 10 times they're failing. So when you get rejected, understand that it's a part of social interaction. It
Mm.
just is what it is. And so you
Mm.
just let it roll off and you think about what just happened and you improve upon it. There are days when we're going to be more anxious, nervous, whatever. There are
Sure.
days when we're going to feel great, but you just keep pushing forward no matter what. And it gets to the point where it just becomes second nature when it comes to talking to these women. Like, as I had mentioned before, like if I had a gun to my head and I had to go pick up a girl and I had 30 minutes to do so, I'd be able to do it, no problem. And I'm confident in myself to do that. Most guys are not, but that comes from experience.
Mm.
So I think that's the most important thing when it comes to seduction is having that flow, having that confidence, and having that experience. And all of those things, and even just base attractiveness level, all of these things are things that you can work on. These are not
Yeah.
things that are just given to certain people and not given to others.
Those are great points, man. Like going off that, like I've definitely noticed that when I start off approaching for the day, the first one usually isn't good because I'm still like, I just got out of bed. I'm just still, I got that anxious energy. Even in these last few weeks, I'm planning a move here. So I have a lot of stress around that. So I'm definitely not like very grounded. So I've been doing approaches and stuff, but they haven't been going fantastic. So that's a great point that it's really about being comfortable in the moment and having that flow state. I think that's super important.
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
I think flow state is something that, at least in the red pill space, it gets shat on a little too often.
Hmm.
I think it's incredibly important. I used to love way back in the day. There was a guy, I, what was his name? Christian McQueen, and he's not in the space anymore. He did this stuff for a while, and then he moved on to like digital marketing and whatnot. I used to love how he would talk about flow state. Like, let's say you're going out for a night, and one of the very first things you do is you're stopping at the convenience store for a Red Bull, and you just flirt with the old cashier there, like,
Mm,
"Oh, you look beautiful tonight," like yada yada yada, and it's just it makes her feel good. It could make her night, and it gets you in the process of doing things. And I
mm,
think that that's incredibly important because as you bring good energy to others, then they bring it back to you, and it's a constant cycle. And I think that's incredibly important when it comes to like going out and meeting people, because if you're bringing that good energy, then they're having a good time. You then end up having a good time, and the likelihood of making a connection with somebody is all the more higher. And
yeah.
that's why I think flow state is so important, even though it gets a bad rap in like RP space or whatever, which I don't
Mm,
exactly understand why, but I
yeah,
think
me
it is
neither.
great, great, great for in the same way that an athlete doesn't just jump on the field and start running, they stretch, they warm up, and then they
Mm,
go. It's just important.
sure. Definitely. And I think where the maybe the criticism towards that comes from is that maybe some guys take that and say, okay, I can't go approach or date unless I'm in the flow state. I know I was like that for a while. Like I was like, oh, I'm not in the zone. I can't do it. But sometimes you have to push through and get some weird, awkward interactions before that zone starts to hit. I like how you made the analogy with sports, and that's what I was thinking too when you were sharing, because like with basketball, for example, like I'll go to the gym and I'll play it like the first game of pickup and I'm missing every shot, right? People are getting pissed. 2 games later, I'm just like hitting everything. Everyone's like, what the heck? And it's because I got in that flow state. And I think the sports analogy works really well too, with the idea that you got to go out there and you got to just practice. You got to put in the reps. There's a quote that I wrote down, and I was listening to Robert Greene. Have you heard of him before?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Very big into seduction, older guy. And he had this quote in a podcast the other night I was listening to. He said, if you think that everything has to be easy and quick, it's never going to work for you. And that really struck me because I grew up kind of coddled, not going to lie, where everything was easy, right? I didn't have to work for anything. And as I hit adulthood, I realized like you got to put a lot of work into shit for it to work out. It was pretty overwhelming. And so I think that's a great message for dating and stuff too. Like you got to go on dates. This is what my mentor's teaching me as well. Got to go on dates, got to get experience, got to get rejection. You just have to put in the time and the effort.
No, that's huge. That is so huge. It's the same way that they talk about where both men and women are guilty of this. They just sit around and wait for their Prince Charming or their beautiful 10 to just walk in the door. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You need to put in work. And then also, like, you may, like, as a man, you may have that beautiful 10 walk in the door, but you don't have the
Mm,
experience to decipher whether she's actually like the right type of person. Sometimes people
right.
have a lot of hidden red flags in dating, and if you
Hmm.
don't have the experience out there, you could get walked all over.
Yeah. 100%. You see it all the time. Like guys call into shows all the time. Like I met
Hmm.
the girl of my dreams, and I've been finessed, or she wasn't who I thought she was. Um, I wasn't who I thought I was, etc. I think too, like going off that a lot. I don't know what religious background you grew up in. I grew up Catholic, which meant that we had that mindset strong that there's one girl for you. God's gonna give her to you. It's gonna come through. You're gonna get married. You got to be pure. All this stuff. But when you do that, she'll be there. Like, and it's like no matter how hard I tried, it never happened. And I see some other guys in the religious space actually find success with this. So a lot of guys, some do have it, and I think that's important to recognize too. Some guys are going to just meet that special someone, first girl they ever hook up with or have sex with. That's going to be the one, and it just happens, but it's very rare. And usually, what I found is like those guys, they have one of my friends, he had that when he was a kid. When he got in high school, he's married his high school sweetheart.
Hmm.
We all went to school together. He came from a really really wealthy background, and he's very good looking. So he has both some of those big things that women like. He had that in his arsenal already. Lots of guys, we start at the bottom. We don't have tons of wealth. We don't have maybe the looks or the genes, uh, pun intended. We have to go out there and kind of create that for ourselves. So yeah, thinking about that a bit too.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I did grow up in a Catholic background myself. It
Okay.
wasn't super pressed on me, but it was interesting because like some of the guys that I went to Catholic high school with, I know one of the guys. He was super selective in college. He actually was a part of my fraternity as well. Super selective in college, and he was just always holding out for something to happen. And I
Mm.
mean, I guess it did, but
Mm.
even with some of these super religious ones, and we don't need to dive super deep into this one because I've already
No.
covered it
Yeah.
many times with others. But even look at Steven Crowder in the news recently. Steven Crowder and his relationship, they were both virgins when they got married. It seemed like the perfect Catholic conservative marriage. And
Yeah.
then it's ending in divorce. So
Wow.
nobody really is safe. And so it's better to, and I'm not saying who's right or wrong in that situation, but what I
Sure.
am saying is it is important to be aware of how men and women interact with one another so that you're able to navigate the entire marketplace all the way through. Because if you're only able to, and that's the biggest thing that I hate as well. It's easy to get laid, but it's difficult to keep and maintain a happy, healthy relationship.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff out here will teach you how to like get the dates and have intercourse. But then but then as you move on, like how do you actually keep that relationship? How do you actually set it on the right trajectory? And how do you know if you're
Mm.
even on the right trajectory? So that's
Mm.
that's an interesting one as well.
And do you think like you have to have the dating experience to be able to recognize like the right person for a relationship? Like they sound kind of symbiotic.
Honestly, see, I actually have not been asked this question before, and I will say that honestly, yes, you do need to have the experience. Now, one of the things when it comes from because I do a lot of religious work with Glenn Lawrence, so we do a lot of
Mm.
this Bible study type stuff. Um, when it comes to dating and like no sex before marriage or all that type of stuff, you can date without having sex. So you can experience relationships without having sex. That's not the path I took, and that's not necessarily a path I'd recommend. But on the religious end, yes, that is the way
Mm.
that you can go about it, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you can still gain the experience of understanding, okay, what type of woman do I want to be with before you finally seal it down. So I mean, that's always another way to look at it.
Are you Christian?
Uh, I would say I'm agnostic, but
Okay.
I come from a Christian background, Catholic high school, and I'm very, very well versed in the Bible and all that.
Okay. Sick. Sweet. I met a guy at the gym recently and he's new into dating and stuff and he's Christian. So he's coming from that biblical perspective as well. And like we were talking the other day, like we grabbed lunch and he's like, "Yeah, I don't just want to go and hook up with girls and bring them home and sleep with them. I want to like take that time to get to know them." And what I've heard a lot in the space, so I'm gonna push back a little bit, is that I've heard the message that women actually fall in love through sex, actually more than men do. And so, like, how then do you navigate if you're not sleeping with the person? How do you like? How does that work?
That's a great question, and I cannot answer it at this time because I think you're right. Because if you, for lack of a better terminology here, dick her down properly, yeah, you can make a woman fall in love with you right off the bat like that. And it's happened to me before. Um, there is something to it, especially if you're developing the connection leading up into it.
Mm, mhm.
But that's something I'm gonna have to think on. But that definitely is something to touch on in the future because if I had somebody come to me that came from a very very Christian background, I would not know how to answer that right away.
Mm. Well, thanks for your honesty, man. We'll definitely touch on that again. Cool. So, some other questions for you here. You kind of touched on this. The next one was how important are looks, money, and status? Because, and I think this is a really important question because I was obsessed with this idea of money that I need to be loaded. as we know, there's some guys out there with great financial wealth. Andrew Tate, he's got the Bugatti. I'm like, I'm never gonna have. Well, never say never, but I'm not gonna have a Bugatti for a while. So
I'm never gonna have a
if I,
Bugatti because I'm not gonna spend money like that. That's a waste of money.
so mindset, I'm like, I'm screwed, man. Like, fuck, like, and I think a lot of guys have that belief in my mentor. Shout out to Nick again. He's really been coaching me on how to change my relationship around money, and that I don't need to be loaded to go on dates and attract women. And in fact, the other stuff, like you said, like being in the flow, having good confidence, good character, that's going to play more. That's going to be way more important than rolling up in a nice car.
So let me put it this way. There is a classic saying that John from Modern Life Dating, hold on, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I just need to mute this. So John from Modern Life Dating, he does a great job framing this out. Money, muscles, game, frame. Those are your four. Now, personally, my opinion on it, instead of doing looks, status, what was it?
Money, status. Yeah,
looks, money, status.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing it that way, muscles kind of ties into looks, but money, yes, money is important. Money is important for you to be able to do what you want in life, and it also does lend an air of security, and it ties into status. Muscles is your fitness and your looks. Game. Now, game and frame are the two most important. Okay. Now, the reason why they're most important, game is essentially that social acumen that you have. I believe that game is most important because game is how you get the relationship. It's how you get things going. It's how you sell in business. It's how you excel in life. Mm-hmm. How do you communicate to other people? And then frame is who's in the frame of the relationship. And that's most important if you're looking for a long-term relationship. So honestly, I don't think that anything matters outside of game and frame. Game is your ability to sell as a salesperson, and then frame is your ability to keep that customer for long term.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
that's
dude,
an
quite
amazing
honestly,
analogy.
Yeah, money does not really matter that much. I would say looks, muscles, all those types of things, it doesn't matter that much because you can be a nobody, but everybody enjoys hanging around you. That's your game. That's your social acumen.
Sure.
So, like, how many girls do you know that have definitely either slept with or interacted with or pursued a guy that was a complete loser, and you were just like, why the heck is she going after him? Or why the heck is he able to get the girl and I can't? When you're thinking to yourself, like, I've got the stable job, I've got the nice apartment, I've got the nice car, I've got all these things. I'm in the gym. Why can't I get the girl? You know?
Yeah, dude, that's so funny. Like last night, I was driving around campus. I'm on a college campus, and this super skinny guy, right? Like he was probably like 6'1", but just zero muscle tone. He was wearing like, I don't know, like shorts that were below his knees. He looked like he was like the And One mixtape, right? And he was just with this beautiful blonde, right? Like my type for sure, skinny, fit. And she was just following around like a little puppy. Now, could that have been a sister or something? The energy felt like they weren't. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I'm like, well, he's got something that I don't because he bagged a beauty there. So yeah, it definitely, I agree. It's not as important, I think, as society hypes it out to be. I know that I've spent most of my life trying to get fit. Like that was my whole game, right? I'm like, I'm just going to get jacked. I did get pretty jacked at one point, and no girl gave a shit, like at all.
No, they don't.
I've never got a compliment from a woman. That's not true. Went in that period that like, wow, Joel, you look so big. It was always the dudes that were like, dude, you're looking freaking jacked, right? Because what my mentor told me is that feminine men value looking really good. That's a feminine male quality. Women don't really.
A lot of it is insecurity too, and they think that if they get ripped, then it'll make up for other deficits that they may have.
Right, and it didn't. guys. It didn't. It's nice. Like I think I'll live a lot longer because I'm taking care of myself well, which is a nice confidence boost. But it definitely didn't just start attracting the girls left and right. Now there are some guys, that are on YouTube and stuff that are absolutely ripped, and they probably do bring a lot of girls and stuff. One point on this too that I think is really important is the difference, like just the whole Western living in the West, right? And looks, having money is a really big thing right now in our American culture. So we're definitely going to touch on this too, on that difference. And that's kind of what's getting circulated around in the red pill community right now, is that America really values the money and the looks, right? But a real feminine woman isn't going to care that much about it. Masculine women care about that stuff. Feminine women's going to care about, yeah, personality. Like, are you confident? Do you have frame? Do you know how to lead in the relationship? Not, do you have bank? And obviously it's important, but they're not going to care about that as much as the other stuff. And a lot of women in the West, I've noticed that they won't give a shit if he's, feminine, masculine, whatever. But if he has money and can, help her look good for social media, for the Instagram, that's enough.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great point. That is a great point.
Absolutely blew my mind. Like learning that in this last few months, I've just been like, wow, that is crazy.
I can't tell you, dude, how many guys have been out in my day where they are much more ripped than me, or they have a lot more money, and it's just mind blown every single time. And it's because it's all about the game. It's being suave, and it's the mouthpiece, it's the social acumen. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that everybody can work on very easily by doing those approaches, by going on those dates. And then all of a sudden you stand above somebody who may be 6'2", 6'3", who's absolutely ripped and has all the money in the world, and you're going to beat him out. It's honestly, I'm not like talking on my ass. It's actually wild to see how you can actually do this. So that's my cap on that topic. What else you got?
Sweet. We'll clip that. Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. So, how do you stay patient when going through the initial transition period of learning game? Something that, yeah.
Ooh,
Take her away.
that's a good one, because I think everybody kind of feels that, because everybody expects, okay, if I buy this course or if I sign up with this coach, then within a month everything is going to be simple, and it's
Yeah,
not. Everybody has different learning curves. Everybody has different learning curves.
definitely.
Um, staying patient, I think that the most important thing you can do is to focus on the wins. So let's say you're going from getting absolutely zero matches on dating apps, or getting zero responses when you're doing Gold Approach, and then you may have one or two wins in a week. Well, one or two is infinitely better than zero.
Yeah,
And so
100%.
and so thinking about that and understanding, okay, I'm better than I was, focus on those small wins and
Mhm.
continue to build on them. I think that is
Nice.
absolutely fantastic, that a lot of people kind of forget. I work, or I deal with guys on this all the time where, and also here's another one. Once you have a spurt of success, and then it starts to dwindle down, or
Yeah.
you lose like the main lead that you were working on, and you thought everything was going well with her, understand that that is just the game,
Mm,
and don't get hung up on it. It may not necessarily be something you did. Just continue moving forward, because you never know what's right around the corner. You were
mm,
hyper focused on maybe one girl that you're getting along with, but maybe you have two potential options in the future.
hmm.
I think that's a
Def-
big one that a lot of people don't think about. The small wins, and understanding that you are infinitely better now than you were a week ago or a month ago.
That's such simple advice too. It's like, I mean, you hear that in
No one
anything,
listens to it though.
anything. No, we want it now. We want that validation today. That's such a good point, man. Like what you just shared. Like I've definitely gone through that in this last year, right? Like it's been the biggest, the most ups and the most downs within the period of sometimes 24 hours that I've ever
Mhm.
experienced. Because I'm like that. Like I've got seen 2 girls. I got a date lined up with a third, or maybe 2 sometimes. And all of a sudden, in like 4 hours, those 2 like drop off. The date's
Yep.
canceled. It's like, what just happened? Like, I felt like a stud like 30 seconds ago, and that's where I think I've had to learn that it's not about, like you said, it's focusing on the wins, focusing on the progress, not so much on the end result, because that can just make you go insane, right? It's like, if you base your value and your self-worth on how many women you're sleeping with, how many, etc., yeah, you're just gonna it's just gonna be empty, and you might end up feeling disappointed. Um, until you get to the place where you're just like rolling with it, then that's a different conversation.
And
But
that's even still difficult, though. I will say that it's difficult that even through all the experience that you get to the point where it doesn't ever bother you. Because I'll be completely
okay,
honest, like,
that's huge.
there's still times where, I remember this one time. This is years ago now. This is back in like 2020, and I had this date lined up, and it was going to be right down the street at a local bar and pizza place, and I was like really looking forward to it. Thought I had everything locked down, and then out of nowhere, the girl just like flipped a switch and freaked out. Ended up, and this was within an hour of supposed to be meeting her,
Okay.
and canceled the date, blocked my number, unmatched me on Hinge, and I
Wow.
just was like, "What the hell? Just what did I do?" Because I started to think, "What did I do?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, "This is what I set my plans for the night, and I set my night up around this." And what the heck? And it still bothered me, even though I have been through this over and over and over again.
Mm.
It affects everybody, but it's just the
What
understanding,
bothered
like,
it about you? Like, what about it bothered you?
I think what bothered me the most is that I thought it was really childish behavior, and if she was uncomfortable about anything, it was never
Mhm.
communicated to me. Like, I'm a very free bird, man. I'm cool with literally whatever. So if she had an issue with coming to that place or the time or anything else, just give me if you're unsure about something, texting back and forth, just give me a call. What's up? Like,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I actually mean because it sounds like you're understanding it a different way. So I
Mm.
think that kind of was one. It hit my ego, of course. It hit my
Okay.
ego, and then it seemed so silly to me, and it was a waste of my time
Yeah.
when it could have been a beautiful night between the two of us. And hey, even if we didn't vibe, we still get to have a night out, meeting some other random person, having a pizza and having a beer. Seems fair enough to me.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
so I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I get pissed when people waste my time too. I think it's just a human thing, and yeah, I think that'll never get old. And so, um, yeah, let's see. So I think a question that just came into my head, transitioning off that, is what what do you do when a girl flakes? Because women can be flaky creatures. Um, emotions run their life, so they might
Mhm.
not be feeling it in a minute. Something comes up, they have no problem saying, I can't do this. I gotta bounce. How do you work through that frustration?
Good point. So a lot of things that people will say is stacking dates. And what they mean by that is essentially planning for multiple dates in one night. And then as the time approaches, if somebody flakes, then you have a backup. Or if the one that you really want to see does not flake, then you flake on the others. I actually disagree with that because I think that's just not fair to people. I think
I
it's
was gonna say that's
disrespectful.
like exactly what I was like. That's what they're doing to us. Like what?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So I would say alternatively to that is stacking hobbies and activities. So
Mm,
let's say, for instance, you were lined up for a date on that night, like I had, where we were supposed to go to the pizza place. Um, well, what happened? She canceled on me. I was pissed off for about 30 minutes. Called one of my boys and we talked about it. And then I just headed to the gym.
nice.
I was supposed to go to the gym that night anyways, so
Cool.
I decided to go to the gym, you know?
Mhm.
So I think that's really the best way to kind of handle it. Understand that these flakes happen. I think leaning on some of your boys, um, because we're all out here dating, and even some of your friends that are in long term relationships. I mean, we all got boys, so talking to one of your boys, venting briefly, and then moving on to some other activity that you would typically be doing anyways. You don't want to, like, let's say you have a date set up for a Wednesday. You don't want to like revolve your week around a Wednesday night date, because what happens if she flakes? Then what you're revolving your entire week around comes crashing down. That's just going to kill your mood entirely.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
that's
Soul
why I think
crushing.
stacking different activities is really important. I don't like stacking dates because I think it's disingenuous. Even if it's done against us, I don't know. I don't care. I
Yeah.
like to treat others the way I want to be treated. But definitely stacking different activities and having alternatives in case something goes wrong.
Love that advice, and I think that can go for dates too as well. I know I've had dates where that we actually go on the date, but I didn't have anything planned after, and maybe they didn't want to come home, and so I remember like yeah, sometimes I would just come home and be like, well, I thought I was gonna be rocking the sheets right now, but here I'm just lying here. So yeah, definitely, yeah, it's a good idea to stack activities too in case things don't work out, even on the
Hmm.
date. Yeah, for sure. All right, here. So we got a couple more left. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, these are going to be good ones. What was your HUD's biggest challenge for you in learning seduction and dating and pickup and all that?
Um, you know what? I think that my biggest challenge, even though I got this one really quickly, and it's probably because I focused on it first, is understanding Kino. Do you know what Kino is?
Kino body, like the workout.
Yeah, so Kino essentially as an old PUA pickup term is like the appropriate time to touch a woman, like the appropriate time to do physical touch between two people.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah, so like
tell me more.
how at certain times, like touching the small of her back, leading her in some place, things like that, um, or how like when you're talking with a girl and you make like a funny joke and she like grabs your arm as she's laughing, that's
Yeah.
Kino. It's the
Oh,
physical communication between two people. That was one of the hardest things for me to learn, although it was one of the
mm,
first ones. So like I
interesting.
learned that pretty well way back in the day.
Okay.
But that was a really difficult one for me to get over, because especially when you're kind of awkward socially, you're not
Yeah.
exactly sure how to interact in situations. Understanding the right time and how to do things makes such a difference, because
Mm,
touch builds comfort. And so
yeah.
once you can learn how to appropriately touch in a non-creepy way, that can skyrocket your game so many different levels. That's why I think it's best, like very beginning of a date, it's always best to greet them with a hug. I don't care what anybody else says. It's always a hug, because that's the initial physical touch that develops even the smallest bit of comfort that can lead to everything more from there. When you go ahead and you meet a girl for the first time and you have zero touch, that's terrible. A handshake, almost as bad.
What's up, dude?
Hey.
Hey, I'm Joel.
So I
Yeah.
think that was actually the hardest one, but I took that on as my biggest hurdle back in the day. And once I figured that out, then it just became, everything else was a lot simpler. What
I was
about
gonna
you?
say, well, going off that, yeah, I for some reason touch was actually pretty natural for me. I think that's why I had some success at the beginning because I just would love to just like put my hand on her arm or on her leg. I mean, that's the best, man. Like, but what I learned is that I was actually doing too much touch too soon, so I had to back it off a little bit and kind of be more selective and kind of read how she responds to the touch. Back to the thing about the hug, though, that absolutely, I was going to say the same thing. Like, you got to give a hug at the beginning, and don't do like a a grandma hug where you like hey, like I just go in and like grab the small of her back, right? That's like the hug, right? And she'll do the feminine like kind of reach around grab thing. So I mean, I've in the past I probably did like the I'm your big brother hug, right? and how to turn a woman off worse than having her think she's your brother. So the biggest challenge for me, I think, has been not getting attached to the outcome. And I think that's just been it. Like having to be okay with the date not fully evolving, or not bringing them home, or maybe we have a great night but then they obviously disappear, right? Just being okay with that whole process and learning that that's part of dating. I'm gonna have to go through it many more times. Like, it's just part of the game. I think too, the other thing that's been difficult for me, and this is what my mentor and I have been talking about recently, is been, even when there's a really really good looking woman, right, I still get nervous and I still struggle to be confident and in frame when she's just smoking. And we've tied it back a lot to, like, he's like, okay, so what was your relationship with your mom, and what did your mom look like? And I'm like, she was pretty good looking. I was adopted, so not only that, but she's not even like my blood. So she was smoking, right? And so there's a part of me that when I see an attractive woman, my mind mistakes her as like being my mother. It's the most wildest psychological thing. Hudz, you and I talked about this the other night a little
Mhm.
bit too, now that I'm remembering. And so, like, my goal right now is to just kind of start approaching more and hopefully sleeping with women that are just like my 10 out of 10, right? Because I think that's really going to have some healing effects, because I still put them on a pedestal. I still think that
Mm.
they're like the most special beings in the world. And I'm really looking forward to breaking that thought pattern. So I realize, like, yeah, take a
That
shit every morning just like the rest of us.
that's powerful. Definitely being able to get to the root of some of our base thoughts and why we act or react in certain ways. I have one other thing I want to mention on this. I wanted to call out Star. Thank you on
Oh,
this. Sending it off to a friend. If anybody needs help with any of this type of stuff, or even just free information, listening to some of these podcasts, it's absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much. I think another big one with all of this is conversation flow. I don't know if you've worked sales jobs before. Um, that's a skill that some people are just born with, and other people
hmm,
have to learn. And dating is sales. You're selling yourself,
yeah,
and I think that's
100%.
one that I had to kind of learn a little bit too, and not be too serious. Uh,
Hmm.
be able to take risks, be able to say quirky things, and just lean into it. Because a lot of times people are so worried about what they say, like offending the other person or making the entire interaction awkward. But people say a ton of goofy stuff all the time. So like just like accept it. We're all flawed
Yeah.
human beings. I mean, we got Joel over
Wow.
here trying to have sex with his mom. I'm just goofing with you, man.
Big red flags, guys. If you meet a guy trying to hook up with his mom, you go.
No, but
That
there's
was great.
no
That was great.
seriously. There's so many
Yeah.
layers. There's so many layers to it to understand about yourself too. And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of the dating coaching that I do, and I work with people that do hypnosis as well. Sometimes you need to unfuck your mind first before you
Mm,
can do some of this stuff. And for some, that's just basic therapy. For some, it could be hypnosis. But I think that understanding the self before trying to put yourself out there can sometimes be the best route. Because if you try and put yourself out there when things are still scrambled inside, then not really going to get anywhere.
100%. Absolutely. Like, back to the sobriety thing. Like, that's why I took like 5 years before I started really working on it, because I just had too much issues going on. That being said, though, I think it's important to recognize that, like, not use self-help as a kind of an excuse not to go start working on some of this stuff, right? Like, I know I fall into that camp too. Like, oh, I'm working on myself, right? I can't go out and talk to girls. I'm in self development. A year would go by, dude. I'm so in self development. Maybe next year, right? So I think it's finding ways to still push that muscle, but then absolutely, like you said, if you got some stuff going on, demons going on, that's probably not a good sign to go out and start dating, because It's just, one, you're only going to attract people that are also in emotionally tumultuous states, or you're just not going to attract anyone at all, and it's just going to be demoralizing. And I'm like, well, fuck, I guess I was right. I'm not great or attractive or whatever. So it's a balance for sure.
Mhm.
It's a balance in this. Sweet. So a couple more questions here, and this one I'm really excited to hear what your thoughts are about it. Um, how do you not be boring with women? This this is actually probably the answer to your earlier question. What's been my biggest struggle, or at least another part of it has been, I like logical conversation. This stuff fires me up, right? I like talking about, or nerdy shit too. Like, hey, it's May the 4th, right? Star Wars Day. Probably not something you want to lead with on a first date, but that's the stuff I like talking about, right? And in approaches too, I find it very difficult to get an emotionally charged conversation going. Usually it's like, before it would be like, hey, 2 seconds, want to say hi. Yeah, what do you do here in Madison? Work or pleasure? And then it starts about work, and it's like, oh, you're here for school, obviously. What do you study? And it's like, I'm just like in my head, like, oh, dude, I'm already so bored of this conversation, dude. I don't care what you do in school, but it's like, how else do you? So yeah, any tips and feedback on that would be
That's
absolutely
funny.
fire.
That's funny now that I'm thinking about it. I'd have to think about a conversation topic in particular. But in the meantime, a way to not be boring. I had a client come out here, come up from Texas, and we went out one night. And as we were just kind of like chilling out, vibe was still getting set. The way that the venue was set up, the dance floor was right in the center of everything, and we were like on the second floor overlooking it. There wasn't really anybody on the dance floor, and I was explaining to him how sometimes just doing those random things is just it's just so much fun, and it can really get the party going. Um,
Mm.
and so what I did was I was like, watch this. I walked downstairs and he watched me from above. I got on the dance floor. I crab walked across the entire dance floor in front of everybody. I got the video somewhere. I crab walked across the entire dance floor. And dude, I had the stomach jitters from that because it was so ridiculous. And I got up, went back upstairs, and by the time I was upstairs, everybody had moved onto the dance floor, and it
Wow,
started to get the entire party going.
dude,
And
let's go.
I'd explained to him like doing stuff like that is it's fun, it's silly, it's goofy. I would bet you that any girl in that place would remember me based off of doing that. And it's just it lightens the mood because when you think about it,
Mm.
when you're having conversations, those initial conversations, everybody is tensed up. They have a barrier that you need to get through first. And sometimes getting through that barrier may be a little bit of humor. The easiest way that a lot of people use is connecting on something. Like, let's say, for instance, you're in a sales call and you connect with the guy because maybe he likes the New York Giants and so do you. And so you guys connect on that. I don't know. I don't do a ton of sports, but but maybe you connect on something like that. It's an easy way to connect. But a lot of ways is to relax her. So, like, for example, um, with one of the dates I went on, I had said like halfway through the date, I started talking about like asking the questions like, "What are you passionate about?" And when it was turned back on me, like I had shared certain Korean video games that I enjoyed, and
Hmm.
I talked very
Sweet.
passionately about it. And by speaking in that manner, it she actually really enjoyed that because she was a nerd herself. And
Okay.
so by me speaking so confidently about that, it not only was attractive to her because I was so passionate about something, but also it broke down her guard so she didn't have to act prim and proper. She could actually act like her normal, goofy, nerdy self.
Mm.
So I think it's a lot of showing who you really are instead of trying to be something else. Like when you're
Yeah.
saying, "May the fourth be with you," like imagine going on a date with somebody and then "May the fourth be with you," and then you pull out like a lightsaber keychain thing, and if she gets it, she gets it. If she doesn't, she doesn't. It's okay. Who cares? It's goofy anyways.
That's the most important thing you just said, is it's okay. Like, and that's got to be one of the biggest hurdles of dating, is learning how to just be like do stupid stuff. Like that's, well, it's not even stupid because you're passionate about it, but that might turn the other person off or make them think weirdly of you. Because it's funny when you said that story about you crab walking, like I put myself in that situation, like while you were sharing, I'm like, well, the first thing I thought was, but then people might remember me as that guy that did that weird thing. But I was like, wait a sec, that's my ego talking. And no one's going to give a shit. Like no one will remember. Like they might remember, but they won't remember. They're not going to lose sleep over the fact that this guy did a different thing on the dance floor. Like no one cares. No one's thinking about you as much as you think you're thinking about it. They're thinking about you. And that's 100%. And man, that's cool. I guess that's why we get along, huh? You like those Korean video games. So
Yeah.
Is that the draw? Yeah. Sweet.
Might be.
That'd be cool. I love that. Yeah. Just do random stuff. I'm definitely gonna try. I like what you said about what's your passion. That's a great question. I don't think I've never asked that question. I've asked, what do you do for work? It's like
Here's the best thing to ask. Combine those two questions together, and this is one of my favorite. If money didn't matter,
Ooh.
and you could do anything you wanted in the world, anything you've always been passionate about, what would that thing be?
And so when you ask that too, when you say that right now, like what if you're in the middle of a grocery store, right? Like how, like, doesn't that run the risk of being too intense? Like, whoa, dude, like I'm just trying to look for.
Well, it's not an initial question. It does a lot better if you're like meeting somebody at a bar and you've had like a drink or two, where you're a little relaxed.
Sure.
But even so, you could ask in a grocery store as long as it's not like the first or second question. But I mean, you could still lean into it anyways. Be like, I've just been thinking about this and I've been asking random people, and then you could ask that question. You get her creative juices flowing, and then you can say, like, whatever, yada, yada, yada. You have that quick conversation, and you can say, honestly, I was just asking you that question because I wanted to talk to you and I thought you were beautiful, but I really love everything that you had to say. You seem to have a beautiful mind. And then you can translate that into some type of close.
Okay. Once again, I'm seduced. So guys, next week we'll let you know how that goes. I'm going to try that one for days, and we'll do a feedback report on how that goes. Oh, that's so, like, even as you were sharing that as an example, like it just felt like it felt good. It just like felt like a good question to be asked, right? Like, hey, I'm asking other, like, a ton of people, like, I'm not doing this because I want to get in your pants, like some weird creepy vibe. It was very just like, hey, I want to get to know you because you're a human being, right? And especially in today's day where everything's online, that's so rare. And I've had so many times when I've gone to do an approach, the initial look is like, whoa, like he's talking to me in public. And sometimes I've had to like break the ice by saying, like, yeah, I know, like, people don't have conversation anymore, so I had to try it out, give it a shot or whatever. Now my mind's spinning to social media and stuff, but we'll save that for another day, because the dating stuff is online is another huge topic. So sweet. I think that wraps up the questions for me tonight. Hud's anything else on your?
Well, Star knows it. Just be who you are. Goofy is charming. If they don't get it, they're a tight ass and it's their problem. Exactly. Have fun with it. Dating's supposed to be fun. Everybody gets so many nerves and frustrations with it, but dating is supposed to be fun, and it can be. And I'll tell you what, my experience of dating has been nothing short of a wild, wild roller coaster, and I've loved every moment of it.
Awesome, man.
Well, so I don't have much else to say. I guess are we doing again next week?
Yeah, we'll be doing this probably once a week at least, and we'll kind of comment. I'm tired, so my questions are not flowing right now, but
no problem.
Chime in, like reach out to Huz, reach out to myself on Instagram or whatever. My Instagram is just Sobriety University _. If you like have topic ideas that you want us to talk about, like we'd love to tailor this around you guys too. and help answer some of your questions. Eventually, once more people start tuning in, we'll do like Q&As where we'll bring people on and they can ask questions either live or just in the comments or whatever. And yeah, we'll be definitely doing this next week. Guys, again, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel. I dropped actually kind of a video that pertains to dating and everything on that channel, which is about addiction, and it's about quitting porn and 3 reasons why it's so addicting. So I know that porn, kind of segue into another thing here, but it was a real block for talking to women, dating, etc. And so having quit that almost 5 years ago, it's just made an absolute difference, and I can have conversations with human beings now. I'm not so ashamed to look in someone's eyes. So it's a big win. And yeah, other than that, Huds, anything on your end?
No, I'm looking forward to everything that we're gonna be doing here. This is gonna be we're gonna be doing this for a while. We're gonna be doing a lot of different topics. I mean, heck, we could even do talking about porn, masturbation, prostitution, the effects that those can have on men. There are so many topics we got churning, and we got a lot of special guests coming along the way. I don't have it in right now, but I will get Joel's Sobriety University YouTube channel in the description. So make sure to check him out. He's got some fantastic interviews, fantastic videos over there. And then, as always, if you want to sign up for any type of dating consulting, best way to reach me is either in the description or on IG at the Hudsman. The description has the direct link. IG will have like 2 separate links that bring you to a page to schedule a consult. But yeah, until next time, Joel, this was an amazing first episode. Thank you everybody that tuned in. Looking forward to next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Peace out.